Assalamu alaikum everybody and welcome to today's video. In the previous math video we learned how to factorize quadratic trinomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c. If you missed that video I encourage you to check it out and I can put the link to it in the description. So basically we said that if we have an expression that comes in that form and we want to factorize it, all we got to do is find two numbers that add up to b, which is basically the number that is in front of the x, and multiply to c as well. Right, so two numbers that add up to b and multiply to c, where b and c here just represent any random constant. Now the way we did that in the previous video was by guessing and checking. We tried to guess those two numbers. So it was like a trial and error method, and some of you might not be very satisfied with that approach because, let's say you're in an exam situation and there is some time pressure and you're a little nervous, so the numbers aren't really coming to you. So is there a way you can find those numbers every time without having to guess and check? And the answer to that question, luckily, is yes. And that method was discovered by an amazing professor by the name of Po-shen Loh. Now some people say that this method existed a long time before he discovered it, but I'm not sure who originally discovered the method. But I did hear that he discovered it on his own, so I'm going to give him credit for that. And he's an amazing professor. I remember he held those live streams on YouTube in the spring of this year, where he discussed math with whoever joined and answered math questions. And I remember I joined a few of his streams, and I asked him some homework questions that I had, and he answered me a couple of times. I was really happy. So very cool guy, and obviously very smart, and he saved the day for us because we no longer have to guess those two numbers. We can find them. Alright, so let me just erase what I've written so far. And let's practice with an example. So x squared plus 6x plus 8. Let's say we want to factorize this expression. Oh, my pen went crazy there. Right, so 8. Alright, so we need two numbers that add up to 6 and also multiply to 8. Okay, so let me write that up here. So sum of those two numbers must be 6, and their product must also be 8. Now, how do we find those two numbers using the po-shen law method? Well, we're going to create those two numbers. Okay, so how are we going to create them? Well, the first requirement we want to fulfill here is a sum of 6, right? We want those two numbers to add up to 6. Now, two numbers will add up to 6 when their average is half of 6, right? So what is half of 6? Half of 6 is 3, right? So let's just do that. So 6 over 2 is equal to 3. So two numbers will add up to 6 if their average is 3. And I can show you that really quickly. It's I guess, some kind of proof. It's maybe not the best proof, but I guess it works. Okay, so let's say we have any two numbers. Let's say we have the number t and the number v. Okay, it doesn't matter. And generally we use letters to make proofs because we don't want to use specific examples. We want to show that it applies to any two numbers. Okay, so how do we find the average? How do you find the average of those two numbers? Well, we just add them up and divide by 2. Okay, that's how you find the average of any two numbers. You just add them up and you divide by 2. So the average of t and v is just equal to t plus v divided by 2. So that is the average of t and v. Now let's say that their average is equal to 3. Then what is their sum? What is the sum of t and v? Well, we have the sum up here. Alright, so let's just make this the subject. We want to find what t plus v is. Let's just multiply by 2 both sides. This will leave us with t plus v is equal to 3 times 2 is just 6. Okay, so there are any two numbers that have an average of 3. If you add them up, their sum will be 6. Okay, and it doesn't work only for 6, it works for any number. So let me give you one more example. So let's just remove what we've written so far. And let's say we want to find two numbers that add up to 10. I'm going to show you that their average is half of 10. Okay, so let's say, what are two numbers that add up to 10? Well, you could say 9 and 1. So 9 and 1. Now, if you add them up, you'll get 10. What is their average? What is the average of those two numbers? And we could show that on the number line. Okay, so let's say we have 1 over here and 9 over here. What is the number that is exactly halfway between 1 and 9? Well, it's 5, right? Look at the distance between 1 and 5. The distance between 1 and 5 is just 4. And the distance between 9 and 5 is also just 4. So 5 lies halfway, exactly halfway between 1 and 9, and so it's their average. Okay? And basically any two numbers that add up to 10. So let's say 2 and 8, 3 and 7, 4 and 6. All these numbers, all these sets of numbers, which I'm going to highlight now, they all have an average of 5. Okay, they all have an average of half of 10. Okay, and it works for any number. I just wanted to point that out. Okay, so we're going to create two numbers that have an average of 3, which is half of 6, right? Because then if we add them up, we'll get the sum 6. Now, how do we create two numbers that have an average of 3? Well, that's easy, right? Let's say the first number is 3 plus u, where u could represent any number here. We're going to try to figure it out later. Okay, so that's our first number. Our second number is 3 minus the same bit that we've added to 3 initially. So 3 plus u, and then here we have 3 minus u. So those are our two numbers. Now, what is the average of those two numbers? Well, we can add them up and divide by 2, and the answer will be 3. But we can also show on the number line, and that's a terrible number line, we can show that their average is 3. So let's say we have 3 here, and here we have 3 plus u, and here we have 3 minus u. Okay, look at the distance between 3 minus u and 3, it's just u. Right? We just add u to 3 minus u to get 3. And what about the distance from 3 plus u to 3? Well, it's also u. Right? To get from 3 to 3 plus u, we just add u to 3. Right? So that is u as well. So their average is 3. Okay, so that's good. And since their average is 3, we know that they're going to add up to 6. And we can also show that. Okay, so let's do that quickly. So 3 plus u plus 3 minus u. This will add up to 6. Okay, so this is equal to 3 plus 3. We can join the 3's and combine the u's too. So 3 plus 3 plus u minus u. Now u minus u just becomes 0, and all we're left with is 3 plus 3, which is just 6. Okay, so that's exactly what we wanted. We've created two numbers that add up to 6, but we don't know what those two numbers are yet. Okay, and we're about to figure out what u is, so then we know what those two numbers are. Now, remember, we want their sum to be 6, which is good. We just found that. We just created those two numbers that have a sum of 6. But we also want their product to be 8. So let's multiply those two numbers. 3 plus u, 3 minus u, and we want that to be equal to 8. Okay, so let's multiply this out. Let's solve for u here. 3 times 3 is 9. Then we have 3 times negative u, is just negative 3u. Then we have u times 3, which is just positive 3u. And then finally we have u times negative u, which is negative u squared. And that we want to be equal to 8. Now notice the two middle terms cancel each other out. We have negative 3u and positive 3u. This just becomes 0. And so all we're left with is 9 minus u squared is equal to 8. And we can swap the positions of the 8 and the negative u squared, and in doing so they will change signs. So we have 9 minus 8 is equal to u squared, or 1 is equal to u squared. Okay, so let's make up some space now. and let's remember our result. 1 is equal to u squared. Okay, so 1 is equal to u squared. So what can u be here? Well, u can be two numbers. What do we square to get 1? Well, we could square 1, right? 1 squared is just 1. What is another number that we could square to get 1? Well, -1, right? -1 times -1 is also 1. All right, so here u could be 1, or u could be -1 as well. And it doesn't matter which u we choose, because the two numbers we're going to get are going to be the same, no matter what u we choose. Okay, so let's say we choose u equals 1. So our two numbers will be 3 plus 1. That's our first number. And our second number is 3 minus 1. So we have the numbers 4 and 2. Okay, what if we chose u equals -1? Well, we're going to get the same set of numbers. So 3 plus -1. Again, we're just substituting the u that we found to get to get the numbers that add up to 6 and multiply to 8. All right, and then our second number is 3 minus -1. So 3 plus -1 is the same thing as 3 minus 1, which is just 2. And 3 minus -1 is the same thing as 3 plus 1, right? Because two negatives cancel out to a positive. So we have 3 plus 1, which is just 4. So we get the same set of numbers, just in a different order, which really doesn't matter. Okay? So those are the two numbers that add up to 6 and also multiply to 8. Now, for our final step, all we got to do is open up two sets of brackets. So let's just erase this. So we open up two sets of brackets. And let's remember the two numbers that we found, 4 and 2. Okay, so we keep an x in both brackets. So x here and x here. And this will give us the x squared that we want. And we just fill in the gaps with the numbers that we have found. So both numbers are positive. So we have positive 4 and positive 2. And we're done with factorizing this expression. Now, I know that might have been long because I tried to take my time in explaining the steps, but this can be done a lot quicker, and I can show you in the next example. So let's just remove everything now. All right, so let's factorize x squared minus 2. Oh, my pen is going crazy today. Minus 2x minus 15. Now we want two numbers that add up to -2 and multiply to -15 as well. So sum is -2 and product is -15. Okay, so we're basically, the first step we're going to do is we're going to take the sum and we're going to divide it by 2. -2 divided by 2 is just equal to -1. Now, out of that -1, well, we're going to take that -1, sorry, we're going to take it, and we're going to generate two numbers out of it. So let's say our first number is -1 plus u, and you could use any letter, it doesn't have to be u. That's our first number. Our second number is -1 minus u. Okay, make sure that if you add u here, you also subtract u here. If you add a t here, you also subtract a t. Okay, now those are the two numbers that we've generated. You can add them up. Their sum will be -2. Okay, but now we have to have their product needs to be -15. So let's multiply them. -1 plus u and -1 minus u is equal to -15. -1 times -1 is +1. -1 times -u is +u. U times -1 is -u. And u times -u is -u squared. Okay, so those two terms in the middle cancel out, and we want that to be equal to -15. So all we're left with is 1 minus u squared is equal to -15. Now we swap the -15 with the -u squared, and in doing so they change signs. So we have 1 plus 15 is equal to u squared. And so finally, 16 is equal to u squared. All right, let's just make up some space now. And 16 is equal to u squared. Let's not forget that. Okay, so what two numbers do I square to get 16? Well, I could square 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. And I also could square negative 4, because negative 4 times negative 4 is also 16. Okay, I could choose any u. It doesn't matter, because I'm going to get the same set of numbers. So let me just choose, let's say u equals negative 4. Why not? So the two numbers I'm going to get are negative 1 plus negative 4. That's my first number. And my second number will be negative 1 minus negative 4. And so negative 1 plus negative 4 is the same thing as negative 1 minus 4. Okay, and that's negative 5. Negative 1 minus negative 4 is the same thing as negative 1 plus 4, or 4 minus 1, which is just 3. And so those are the two numbers that add up to negative 2 and also multiply to negative 15. And so we just open up two sets of brackets. Okay, and we keep an x in both, and we fill in the gaps with the numbers that we have. One is negative 5, and the other is positive 3, and we're done. Now, okay, that might have taken a little bit of a long time too, just a little bit, but it's definitely shorter than the last example. Now I could show you, after you get enough practice with this, how fast you can do it. I'm thinking of making a challenge here where I try to factorize an expression really fast using this method. So let me actually do it. And I'm going to use a timer to time myself while solving this example. All right, so I have the stopwatch next to me. I'm going to start it as soon as I write down the expression to factorize. Okay, and I haven't really done this expression before. I'm just going to take a random one out of the book. Let's do x squared minus 20x plus 36. Okay, so before I start the stopwatch, I'm going to write down the sum and product that I need. So sum negative 20, and product is 36. So I'm going to use the po-shen law method to find those two things. Two numbers that add up to negative 20 and multiply to 36. All right, guys, so are you ready? Or the real question may be, am I ready? All right, so let's see in 3, 2, 1. Let me start the stopwatch now. All right, so take the sum divided by 2. Negative 20 over 2 is negative 10. We're going to take that, and we're going to create two numbers out of it, negative 10 plus u, negative 10 minus u. We're going to multiply them together. Negative 10 plus u, negative 10 minus u. We want that to be equal to 36 because they already add up to negative 20. So negative 10 times negative 10 is 100. The two middle terms will cancel each other out, so let's jump into the final terms. U times negative u is negative u squared is equal to 36. So u squared is equal to 64, and so u is equal to 8, or a negative 8, doesn't matter. So negative 10 plus 8 is one of our numbers, and negative 10 minus 8 is our second number. So our first number is negative 2, and our second number is negative 18, and we're done. Okay, so that looks like we found it in around 50 seconds. Okay, so that's good. So now all we got to do, since we found our two numbers, just got to erase everything. And sorry for the quick mess here. I just wanted to show you that with practice you can do this really quickly. Okay, so we open up two sets of brackets, keeping an x in both of them to get our x squared, and we fill in those gaps with the numbers that we have found. Don't forget they were negative 2 and negative 18, so we fill them at negative 2 and negative 18, and we're done. Alright guys, so that's it. Basically, you just take the sum, you divide it by 2, and you take that result, and you generate two numbers out of it. You take that result and you add a little bit to it for the first number, and your second number is going to be that same result minus that same bit that you added to it for the first number, and you're going to multiply them together, multiply the two numbers that you want, and you equate them to the product that you want, and then you solve for u in order to find what your numbers are. All right, so I hope that made sense. Credit to Mr. Shen Loh for finding this beautiful way and very quick way and very simple, but very effective as well. So I hope you enjoyed the demonstration here. I hope that last example made sense as well. And that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you next time.